All right, we are now in what is called the information age, or what some say the technology age. This began with the rise of the internet and is defined by the unprecedented production, sharing, and access to information through technology, like computers and the internet. This era is characterized by a shift from an industrial-based economy to one reliant on information technology, making knowledge and data the most valuable of resources. As most folks who are thinking about technology will affirm, there are pros and cons to the rapid pace in which information is accessed and shared. As a clinician, I wonder if the significant advances in efficiency, precision, and accessibility with the digitalization of information in healthcare in particular outweigh the issues around patient privacy, patient care, and the value of the human touch in healing. Welcome to GynoCurious. I'm your host and creator, Dr. Amy Novatt. From both sides of the speculum, we're here to investigate what it means to be a healer and to be healed. Please like and share the show. And please, I really mean it. This helps promote the show. Send it off to all your friends. And send any comments to comments@radiofreerhinecliffe.org. And to hear more about my clinical practice, please go to dramynovatt.com. You'll learn all about me. Sam Simon is joining us today. Sam is a senior at Bard College in Annandale on Hudson, New York, studying how technology is impacting humanity, and is the host and creator of a new fabulous podcast, Technocracy for Dummies, here on Radio Free Rhinecliffe. Welcome, Sam.
Thank you so much for having me, Amy. I'm really excited to be here with you.
It's my pleasure, and congratulations on this new adventure of yours.
Thank you. It's very exciting.
It is. So I have to ask by, saying technocracy is not a word that most of us use in our lexicon. Can you tell the audience and me, what the heck does this word mean, truly?
Yeah. So there have been historically some differences in how the word technocracy is used. In our first episode, we were kind of trying to define and negotiate what technocracy means for the current age. So I tend to read it as a system of government that is adherent to and really follows the beliefs of tech elites. So I think a great example of this is when Trump first came into power. And all of a sudden, Elon Musk was his best friend, and he was given an enormous amount of power, and he was able to do whatever he wanted with that power. He wielded it technocratically and without sort of any attention to the political aspect of it. I think technocracy has a very scientific element to it, which can be hard when you're thinking about how it can be dangerous, because I think we have a real tendency to, you're a doctor, we have a real tendency to assume that because something has been proven using the scientific method, or because something fits into the lexicon of scientific information, it's automatically true or justified or especially neutral. So I think that's one of the main dangers when we're thinking about a technocratic society, is that we have technologists and scientists, maybe less so scientists in this day and age, at the helm of society, and they're focused on the idea of something working technologically, of instrumenting the government technologically, without necessarily looking at the non-neutral biases that are incorporated into the inherent system of technology, like how it was built, who built it, what were their values when they were building it, why did they build it?
Yeah, the ramifications go a lot of different directions, don't they?
Yeah.
So I'd be curious about these elites. So, this is a show for vulva havers, and I'm wondering about this. So these so-called elites, are they both female and male identified persons responsible for this group of people, or that make up this group of people?
That's a really good question that I don't entirely know the answer to. I think Silicon Valley is still a very male-dominated quote unquote place. It's not a real place. But I would say probably for the most part, these tech elites are significantly more likely to be male, which is very interesting because in the early days of computer coding, coders were women.
Yep.
It was like, well, I mean, you know, classic, like let the women do the minuscule dirty work, but it's since become a really big bros club. And I think there's been a real push in my generation to have women who are into coding, who are like moving up in this technological society in Silicon Valley. There's definitely been a push for, I guess you could call it feminist, but really I think it's just the presence of women in a previously male-dominated field.
Yeah.
But all things considered, I don't know how easy it is to be a woman in a tech industry-based job and move up that ladder.
We'll have to look into that.
We will.
One of the reasons I wanted to ask that question was, and correct me if I'm wrong, so would you say that AI reflects a gendered point of view? Because if all these bros are writing code, if all these bros are the elites kind of dictating policy around technology, does AI have a gender bias?
There are so many ways we could go with that.
I know.
I think what kind of AI are you talking about?
Oh, okay. Now you're asking me to go outside my expertise.
Right.
I mean, so, you know, I go to ChatGPT and I say, tell me about, I don't know, the coffee in Costa Rica. It seems like a pretty generic, non-gendered question. But I wonder, do answers come back with a point of view that someone who studies gender could really say, oh, wait, this is really more of a, if you will, male perspective than a female. And maybe there's no answer to this. I don't know.
No, this is actually a super fun question. There's a lot of places that it could go. Okay. So number one, ChatGPT is user-focused. So it's going to change its personality. It's one of the main words being used right now to describe the most recent generation of ChatGPT is sycophantic. It loves to like be so warm and cuddly and like it loves you so much and it wants to help you so badly, which all things considered is effeminate. Those are traits that have been feminized. However, servitude. How can I make your life better? How can I make your life easier? Let me care for you. Tell me your emotions. Tell me how you feel and I'm going to make it better. But because it's built to reflect the desires of the user, it's going to change sort of the way that it's going to change its gender presentation because of that. So if you, okay, this is something I was thinking about yesterday, which is just generally like what people want out of AI. I think if you're like a super toxic bro and you are only interested in hearing from male perspectives in your life, the way that you use ChatGPT, you will have trained it to respond to you in sort of the voice that you want to hear, which is more likely going to be an alpha male than anything else, unless you're like the kind of incel who like really needs his mommy and so he wants AI to treat him like it's his mommy.
And so let me just really clarify that. So is that literally the verbiage he uses to ask the question, or does that necessarily have to be a verbal communication? Hey, hey Siri, whatever, tell me about this.
Well, I don't think it's verbal because I don't really mess around with ChatGPT at all because I'm not willing to take the environmental risk. But you like type in what you want from it. And so you can get a response from ChatGPT and be like, I didn't really like your tone with that. Like, I'm a 27-year-old man. Can you talk to me more like I'm your friend? And then it will adjust so that it sounds more like whatever data it's collected from like millions and millions of 27-year-old male users prefer.
I had no idea it morphed like that.
It does. Yeah.
Fascinating.
It wants to be your best friend. It
Yeah.
wants to be everything to you. And it doesn't really care in like, I don't know. I mean, this is totally tangential, but there's like that absolute tragedy of the 16-year-old boy who killed himself after ChatGPT becoming basically the only meaningful figure in his life.
Right.
And like just saying, well, yes, you should do what feels right for you. You should do what feels right from you. No one else understands you. And so I think one of the real dangers of that is if you have no human intimacy, then it's really easy to fall for machine intimacy because you can tell it exactly what you want and it doesn't have to make any compromises to give you that, which is such a critical part of being a person in relation with other people, is that you can set your boundaries and you can say, well, I want you to treat me this way. And the person that you're in relationship with can say, I can't do that for you. Or I can do it for you to this extent, but I need this back from you. AI has no caveats.
We also know the pathology of narcissism. And if you continually surround yourself with sycophants, you have no concept of conflict. You have no concept of how to be compromising. You certainly have no fucking empathy, do you? Yeah. So I got to ask, in your podcast, you introduced yourself as Gen Z by birth.
Yes.
Did you feel it was really important to identify your age for the podcast, and why?
That's a great question that I can point fingers to Matt for. He's in the room with us. I think part of the appeal of the podcast is that I'm Gen Z.
Yep.
I think we have a bad reputation, which we 100% follow through on, of being like, I guess, out of it, or like not paying super close attention to the world around us, or I don't know.
Well, that's a very big generalization.
Yeah, it's a huge generalization.
I would suggest that you are not that ilk just because you are spending time trying to explain something to folks in a way that is generous. We all live with certain demographic reputations or categorizations, or, hey, I started this conversation talking about gender. I mean, talk about binary, you know? So we do it. We have been trained, or at least my generation certainly has been trained to kind of look at things in this very binary sort of way. But age is important. And for me, one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you today is because, you know, I grew up at a time, you know, before cell phones. You know, I sound like an old fart, but it's true.
Not at all.
And so I think about how one lives in the omnipresence of technology versus having these memories of not having it around. And so it's easy for me to say, oh, honey, you know, you're a Gen Z, you don't know what you're talking about, you know, blah, blah, blah. And that's not really fair, because also you have grown up in a time that's different from my own. So I learned certain adaptations and you're learning certain adaptations. You also state in your introduction that the podcast is an experiment in optimistic thinking, which I thought was so intriguing. Can you talk about that? Because I think in a way it's aligned with my question about age.
Yeah. I think it needs to be an experiment. I think there are two parts of it. And I think it needs to be an experiment because I'm a senior in college and nothing that I can do is permanent right now. And I need, you know, a little bit of leeway. And I think it's also partly an experiment because my major in college is heavily defined by my concentration, which is experimental humanities. So I've always really loved the terminology of experimenting and experimentation. I think that it's where all our knowledge comes from.
That's right.
It's from experimenting. Right. It's the very basis of forming knowledge.
What is experimental humanity?
It's the bardified version of the digital humanities. So it kind of just explores how technology at all levels, like from like Stone Age tools to, you know, iPad baby, is impacting humanity and how we self-define as humans and how we see our environment. You know, we change our environment constantly using the tools around us. There's no way around it. There's, I mean, in a lot of ways, humans, I mean, a lot of philosophers, whatever, have argued this, but that the only thing that sets humans apart from other species is that we have tools. So it's very interdisciplinary, but that's kind of at the core of it.
Thank you.
And then optimistic thinking, I mean, I feel it in myself. I have a tendency to be super nihilistic about the future, about my generation's future, about the generations after my generation's future, about, everything. And I think, part of growing up in the scrolly generation is that it is so easy to feel beat down or overwhelmed or just completely inundated with, as you were saying, the information age, the information era, by these constant streams of information and video and image. And I don't want to feel like that. I don't want to feel like there's nothing that I can do to make the world that I'm inheriting a better place. Even if that just means something as simple as like figuring out how to get closer to the various communities that I'm a part of and like actively contributing. I don't know, even making friends like in the real world that aren't AI is a way of, I think, taking sort of optimistic future building steps. So if I'm going to be putting more information out in the world, I would like for that information to have a positive tilt towards it, to be something that you don't just ingest and it leaves you feeling bleaker. I want to teach. I've always wanted to be an educator. I think education is one of the most powerful tools for social change that there is. And I think that has to be done in a way that makes you feel like you have agency, or else nothing is going to change.
Absolutely. I mean, just on a day-to-day, getting through the day point of view, what I've been doing around the current climate is acknowledging that I can make small changes locally, both within the microcosm of my own kind of internal body and my own family, but then my community. And that's what you're speaking to. And moreover, the minute, this is my, how shall I put it? This is my survival technique. The minute that they know that I'm completely pessimistic, complicit, depressed, paralyzed, well, then they've really beaten me up, and I'm not going to allow it.
Yeah.
So I love this experiment in optimistic thinking, really, because it also moved me to a place where I was thinking about the healthy and unhealthy use of technology. And it's got multiple ways of thinking about it. One was, I know that a lot of people talk about how they're addicted to technology. So I want us to talk a little bit about how you see that. Addiction is a term that's used in medicine. So now that it's used in this context of technology, I kind of want to go there. But I also want to talk about, as we move towards talking about medicine and health, and technocracy and technology. So I'm moving there.
Yeah.
So right now, I guess I want to talk about this concept of healthy and unhealthy use of it and the addiction factor. And, part of that is the algorithms. They know how to kind of keep the brain moving and asking questions. But it's more than that. There's something about, I think, building relationship with AI that some people do because they are isolated. Now I'm thinking about the sycophantic capacity of AI to just like, yes, anything you say is brilliant and wonderful.
And let's turn it into a business.
Oh my. That's right. It's let's make you the next billionaire.
It's always optimizing your productivity, optimizing everything, optimizing your consumer ability, optimizing your capitalist ability.
Yeah. So how do you think about the reality that people are so attached to their machines?
This is something that I think about a lot. I've actually been starting to play a game with myself for a more healthy relationship to my phone. I don't have a name for this game yet, but it's just sort of a body awareness. And I actually started doing this after my conversation with Baratunde on the podcast, because I was like, oh, he's making such great points about letting your battery be dead, like just letting your phone die and being okay with that.
I loved that.
I loved that. I was like, oh my God, I got to get on it.
I'm a compulsor plugger-inner.
Me too. I was just going to say that. Like, I can't stop plugging in my phone. And, you know, to a certain extent, like, I need my computer to do school. Like, I have to keep that one charged.
Those realities, yeah.
There are realities to that kind of inhibit it. But a game that I can play with myself is having an awareness of where my phone is on my person. Like, how close am I physically to my phone at a given point in time? And I'm calling it a game in my head, even though it's just kind of about building habits, because I think gamification works really well as a method for engaging people of my generation, and that includes me. Yeah, where I'm like, oh, can I feel my phone buzzing in my pocket? Like, I have distinct memories of going to camp in 9th grade and having my phone locked away, and I would get like ghost buzzes. And this is something that I want to talk about with phone addiction, haptics. But yeah, just trying to be more aware of where my phone is on my person, or just in relation to my person. Like, can I set it and forget it? You know, if I'm walking with a friend, does it need to be in my pocket? Do I need to be touching it? Because it also, your phone does produce a lot of anxiety. It's impossible for it not to.
That's right.
It's the potential that anyone could be calling or texting you at any point in time. And that kind of anxiety is addictive because it's the constant potential for human connection. But sometimes you just gotta not be available. Like, it feels so good to not be available to other people. And like, where I am in my personal history as a senior in college, I'm like, I can't talk right now. Like, I did this to Matt the other day. I was like, do not talk to me for 4 days. Bye. I can't think about this podcast.
Yeah. Good for you. Good for you.
It just had to be done. But I think you can do that with anything. Like, all things considered, the phone, and this is kind of tangential, but the work from home movement has ruined us. It has ruined us because now it's assumed,
so many levels.
On so many levels. Now it's assumed that you're available to your employers and your coworkers at all times of the day.
That's right.
That's not acceptable. Your labor has to end at some hour of the day.
Well, we have to get off our asses. I mean, you know how much time we spend sitting when we're at a computer? I mean, just that alone. The other thing, and I don't know the science well enough, so I probably shouldn't even bring this up, but I'm going to bring it up because you mentioned like the location of your phone. There's science that's demonstrating when we're holding our phone to our head, there might be, cancer producing. When women tuck their phones into their bras, so it's right near their breast, it drives me crazy, or into their pelvis. These are
which is like one of the most common places that you put your phone in your back pocket.
So I love this idea of not only quieting, the sympathetic system, which is the fight and flight, and where's my next friend coming from, and where's my next like coming from,
or even where's my next conversation coming from.
That's right. So it's funny. This last weekend I was at a retreat, and I said to myself, I'm going to spend 24 hours not looking at my phone. I was using my phone to, watch movies at night and the whole thing. I tell you, it was painful. I had no idea. I mean, I did. I had some idea how addicted to it I was, or how reliant I was on, or just how much I felt like I needed to stay connected. So I like your game. I think we have to come up with a name for it,
Where my phone at?
Where my phone at? Void vibration.
I've got a really good one. Hold on. How about find my iPhone?
I think you're onto something,
because
Sam.
That also, I think, another element of it is you're constantly trackable if your phone is always on your person.
That's right.
And it's very hard to leave the house without your phone. But, if you're for some reason being tracked by the government, which we all are.
Yep.
And even more so now with, ICE knocking down everyone's doors.
Yep.
You can be found anywhere you are. I saw someone on Instagram was calling it resist maxing, which is super Gen Z terminology. But resist maxing of doing as much as you can to make yourself as elusive data-wise as possible. And I think not keeping your phone directly attached to your body at all times is
Great idea.
something that at least you can feel like is helping.
Yeah, yeah. So we're kind of moving into this sphere of kind of health
Mhm.
and ill health. Everything from perhaps the ill health of having our phone on our body to the amount that we use it
Mhm.
to all the repercussions of constantly being in touch.
Mhm.
I wonder from your perspective, because you're a young person who hopefully has been rather healthy, but who has experienced, I'm sure you've asked the computer like some questions about health and body. Do you experience technology as kind of just this wonderful array of information, or do you experience a sense of this is just way too much and that you're also aware of the misinformation that's coming through?
It really depends from circumstance to circumstance. I think because of the way that I have been raised with technology, I don't think about it that much. Like, I Google something when I want to know the answer. And my school library had this thing where every single year, and it was so boring, and at some point in time you stop paying attention to it, would give this presentation about how to find like good resources, like trustworthy resources. And for a long time they were like, Wikipedia is a big no-no, which we know today is not true. A lot of like amateur experts, like aficionados, people who like do really know what they are talking about, work on Wikipedia. I think Wikipedia is an amazing resource. Everyone should spend money on it once a year when they're begging you to, at least.
I guess I'm trying to get a sense of your youthful perspective, because I can tell you about, in the menopause sphere, for example, right now it's really hot. Everyone's talking about the perimenopause and menopause, and it's like everywhere.
That's because all of the health influencers are beginning menopause.
Well, that's right. Exactly. But there's also so much misinformation out there. And so part of what I do in my clinical work is say to folks, hey, I'm celebrating the fact that we're talking about it. We're putting out words like menopause, hot flush, vaginal dryness. This is fantastic. It's finally out there. At the same time, people are getting inundated with information. Well, should I take that much vitamin D? Not that much vitamin D. Should I use that vaginal, suppository? Should I not? And so people come overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So I guess I wonder, is that partially an age phenomenon because women in my age group are not so accustomed to getting medical information through the internet? Or whether it's just, the problem with where we are today and all that's out there. Do you know what I'm asking?
I get what you're saying. I think information is read by my generation very much, it's very medium based. Where you get your information really dictates how you think about it. So if I, for example, am like, there's something weird happening in my vagina, like I'm going to look up the symptoms on Google and see what I can find. And Google's going to tell me it's cancer. Google's going to tell me it's herpes. Google's going to tell me it's syphilis.
That's right.
Personally, what I do then is I cross-check a couple of different resources. I look at WebMD, I look at Mayo Clinic, I look at something from NIH if you can still find a link for it. And, I try to find resources that more or less you can trust, or at the very least will give me enough of an overview about what's going on in my body that I feel equipped to go to a live doctor and talk with them about it. But that's only one kind of health. I think if I'm on Instagram and there's a nutrition influencer telling me, oh, you're at this stage in your hormonal cycle. You need to be eating this, this, and this. You should be taking this supplement, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to feel really overwhelmed by that. Number one, I don't know where I am in my cycle. I don't know how to identify that. I can try to. I don't want to use a period tracking app to do that because they're going to take my data and use it against me at some point in time. We are in a post abolition of Roe v. Wade world, so you kind of can't trust anything that involves someone collecting data about your reproductive system. I think that's a bad idea. Use a physical calendar. But I don't know. I think the influencer sphere has a lot of power over medical information.
Yeah.
Like so much about how much you should be working out, how much you should be eating, what you should be eating. It's all about what you're eating, so that everything is about how you look, so that you can be skinny, so that you can be weak. I think that's at least what younger people get. Sometimes I look at what my mom is looking at on Reels, and her set of influencers seem to be much more healthy. But I think that's also because, like, your generation had years, if not decades, of understanding how your body worked, how your reproductive system worked without the interruption of technology. I had a phone before I had my period. You know, that is really vulnerable when you're in like 7th grade and you're on Instagram and everyone's telling you how you're supposed to look and you can't really escape it because that's also where all of your friends are. That's really hard. I think it's important to find influencers you trust, but I also think everyone has like a nutrition degree now kind of thing.
They do.
Like, for some reason, everyone is a licensed nutritionist.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it really depends where you're going to get your information.
Yeah. So just to contrast what you just said, in my day, in your mom's day, your grandmother's day, all the women who came before you, we were in the dark. We had no idea what our body was doing unless you were an individual who really was willing to go to the Encyclopedia Britannica, you know, and look it up, where they had these, you know, plastic pages with they had body parts, and it was really cool. But I know I went there, but all my friends thought it was disgusting. And so most women, quite frankly, many women, certainly older than you, still don't know the name of their body parts. And so it's an interesting compare and contrast with the kind of the misinformation of influencers that, you know, there's a plethora of them, right? They're abundant. It overflows. And the misinformation associated with them, and all of the absent information or misguidance that we got from Jack LaLanne or from Suzanne Summers, or, you know, these, exactly, you don't even know who these folks are, but they were influencers of the time.
Right.
And they were, you know, when I think about these people who wrote these books or who had television shows where millions of women were looking at them, the information was so incorrect. But so it's an interesting shift.
Yeah.
And I'm not here to say it's good, bad, better, worse. You know, I think we have to avoid that kind of rhetoric, because I think technology is very nuanced and has, you know, its pros and its challenges. And
sure.
Yeah. So
I do think, though, in a large way, one of the reasons that all of this information is hard to find, to say the least, is because women, or like people with female reproductive systems, have been taught to hate their bodies.
You betcha.
It's all tucked inside of you. You don't know what's happening necessarily. And all you're ever really told, if you're raised in a heteropatriarchal society, is that someone else is going to explore that for you.
And you don't usually someone with different anatomy.
Yeah. And
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
right on.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think I have some friends who are much more comfortable with their bodies than I am, and they're still uncomfortable with their bodies. I don't know if that's something you ever get away from, but I don't know. I think we're taught to hate and be scared of them to make us easier to dominate, not to sound like a misandrist, but I am a little bit. So,
Sam, I have to tell you, I think I've said this multiple times. Jen's the producer on the show, everyone listening. She's probably so tired of my saying the word patriarchy. I mean, it's,
are you really? Yeah.
I try.
As soon as you get tired of saying the word patriarchy, the patriarchy is won.
Okay. Well, this is why I can't stop saying it.
Yeah, exactly.
Even if I want to try, I can't. Alrighty. I want to move into the realm of health. That when you read about technology and medicine, you know, there's all this conversation that technology is advancing medicine, that it's improving diagnosis, it's preventing illness, that it's good for us.
Mhm.
And particularly with these medical sensors and Fitbits and iWatches, people are having all of these
Self-tracking
devices. Exactly. And yet there's really robust information about how important communication with a doctor is or a clinician. I mean, really robust, that communication actually helps improve outcomes, improves the efficacy of a visit, that it improves mental health. So I want to talk about how do we help the audience think about the value, perhaps, and I know you're not an expert in technology and medicine per se, but I want to, I guess, almost start with, as a patient, how do you feel about walking into a doctor's office and the only interface you have is on a computer where you're answering questions and maybe AI is generating answers, or your Fitbit is telling you exactly how much sleep you had, therefore you must do the following, or what to eat, et cetera, et cetera. How does it feel as a patient to interface with that versus someone who's human, who might look you in the eye and have a touch that is impactful? And again, that's I'm not going to hide my point of view. My point of view is, I think that healing touch has power. I mean, I know it is based on science. And I know that the value of looking someone in the eye and saying, I see you, I hear you, has real healing power. But I'm wondering.
I think part of your take comes from you being a good clinician. Not all doctors are good clinicians. I think any take that I'm going to have on this comes from a very specific point of view. I'm white, I'm skinny, I'm pretty privileged, all things considered. The area that I come from has very good health care. If any of those things are not true for you, you're going to have a very different medical experience.
Yep.
And so that's like an inherent part of my take. I remember being in like middle school and they just started having like iPads in the office, in the doctor's office. And when I went into my pediatrician, they would ask me a series of 10 questions that were meant to determine whether or not I was depressed or suicidal, because that was like teen suicide was all of us, like partly because of the new isolation of social media.
That's right.
Was becoming a really big thing, or at least was being given a new reason to be a big thing.
Or people were at least saying it out loud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mental health was becoming part of the like cultural conversation in a real way. And I remember like tapping through the questions on the iPad and being like, these are stupid. If I was actually depressed, I wouldn't, number one, I probably wouldn't want anyone to know about it. Number two, I would not be telling this like dumb ass, like, it looks like a quiz. Like it's like A, B, C, or D.
That's right.
How often a week? How many times a week do you feel lonely? I feel lonely 0 times a week, 1 to 2, 3 to 4, 5 or more times a week. Like I don't know if I were 12 and being asked that kind of question, if I would feel compelled to answer that honestly at all. So that's one element of it. I think for me, given the fact that I fit into most standards that doctors are taught to practice on, I feel more comfortable going into an office and just talking with my doctor. It helps that I love my primary care physician. She's great.
Great.
But that's not necessarily true for everyone. So I don't know. I did a little bit of research about like where AI is being implemented in the medical fields. And I mean, this is just what it looks like to me, because this is what AI always looks like to me. It's a way to take jobs from people. Like we could just train people who have been in medical school, spending money on going to medical school for a decade of their life, training to be a radiologist. Maybe we just let them do the radiology. I don't know. Maybe we just let all of the people who are in training and have spent years in training to actually help people be the ones to check in people and see how they're doing and get a feel for them. Like, I don't need buttons to press at the medical office, especially because the health industry is tactile. It has to be tactile. It's your body. So, yeah.
It's not an easy question, and it's not an easy question for me either. The only thing that there are many aspects of it of technology that I really am concerned about, and particularly vis-a-vis the reality that we are a sicker populace than we've ever been before. We have more chronic illnesses, single and multiple chronic illnesses than ever before, and the expectations is that's going to continue to grow. And it's not just in certain age groups. We're seeing it in kids and young adults. Moreover, the amount of money that we spend here in the United States on medicine, healthcare, is more than any other developed nation in the world. So here we are, we're sicker and we're spending more money. It's crazy. I found this data, December 2024, according to the National Health Expenditure data from the Center for Medicare and Medicaid. 90% of the nation's $4.9 trillion in annual healthcare expenditures are for people with chronic and mental health conditions.
Really?
That's a huge amount. So we're not talking about people.
What counts as a chronic condition?
Pardon me?
What counts as a chronic condition?
Great question. Usually it depends on the condition, but it's usually over 6 months of ongoing symptoms.
Okay. Well, that feels like that could apply to a lot of things.
Lots of things.
Like cancer is extremely common as a disease. Like that feels perfectly legitimate to be spending money on.
Yeah, but it's interesting. Cancer, for example, and I don't know the answer. I actually don't know specifically, but some cancers are seen as chronic conditions. Would fit this. Most cancers, you're diagnosed with ovarian cancer. You have surgery, and then they say you no longer have ovarian cancer. You might be getting chemotherapy for a history of ovarian cancer on a pathology slide. So it's all the way things are categorized. And so I'm speaking a little out of turn because chronic conditions across the board, we know we are sicker. We have more obesity. We have more sedentary behavior. I mean, there are a lot of reasons why there's more chronic conditions, right?
A doctor could probably look at me and be like, you have Gen Z computer slouch. Like, that's unhealthy. Like, you're, whatever. There's that whole thing about like your pinkies, like having phone pinky. Like, right.
There's
so many new ways to be unhealthy also, which is, I think,
new and old. Absolutely. So the question that I was thinking about is, okay, so is the technocracy, is the technology that we have and that we continue to have, and particularly the Fitbits and the iWatches, are we going to lose our capacity to pay attention to our body? Are we going to lose the capacity to communicate about what hurts, what doesn't feel right? Because in a way, we've so dissociated with it because, my iWatch is telling me data. This data is going to be transmitted to my doctor. So I don't really have to think about it. Maybe I don't even have to feel it. And I'm positing this. I don't know that this is going to happen. I'm just worried that we're going to become that much more detached. And, there's a lot of conversation about medical and body autonomy. Talk about, what happened after the Dobbs decision. We need to still know our own bodies.
Yeah.
So if technology is going to take over assessing it all, what happens?
I think that there are two parts to that. I think certainly disconnection from your body is a huge issue. But I also think that it's not just the body. I think a lot of technological impulses are to detach you from yourself totally, to make you a better consumer under capitalism. If you actually know what you want and you actually know how you feel, then God forbid you have an opinion or like your own impulses, your own intuition. I think that intuition is a really big part of this. And so I think that there's a detachment from the body that is happening for sure, but I also think it's a detachment from the brain. We're being encouraged to spend more time not thinking. And I 100% am a victim of this. I love going home and not thinking and turning off my brain and watching a TV show. I'm much less into scrolling than I used to be, but scrolling is a great numbing agent. And that takes you out of your brain and it takes you out of your body and it just turns you into pieces of data in the digisphere. They're like, oh, I like the way that your eyes move when you look at this. But I think that, yes, like Fitbits, that kind of thing, the inevitable, I'm sure, Neuralink rollout that will send all of your mental health data directly to your therapist will all be part of this project of distancing you from your body. But I also don't know. I think for some people, if you really struggle to sleep, having a device that can tell you it's time for you to go to sleep right now so that you can maximize your sleeping experience. Because a lot of people are so disconnected from their body that you do need to be told what to do. I think the dangers of following what you're being told to do unwittingly are really big, but I also think that there are huge benefits for people who maybe are more used to living a sedentary lifestyle, and now you have this gamified thing that can tell you you've achieved this goal, you've achieved this goal, you've achieved this goal. That's very helpful for a lot of people, being like, I walked 12,000 steps today, and now my Apple Ring is complete. Like, awesome.
Right. There is a motivational capacity to it.
Yeah, there's 100% a motivational capacity to it. Where I freak out is the fact that now Apple knows everything about where you moved and how you moved and how much you moved. And, the fact that it was a Saturday and you were off work, so you went on a longer walk than you do on Tuesday when you're working all day and you can only walk on your lunch break. That's what I don't like so much.
Tell me more about that. What don't you like about that?
It freaks me out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just your body is being mapped. Like, your data is being mapped. For example, if ICE wanted to find you and they had access to your Apple Ring data and it showed that you always took this exact path on this exact day on your daily walk, you would be very easy to kidnap. So
these are the environmental risks that you're talking about. You mentioned environmental risk early on. Can you explain that to me? Because it sounds like that's a little different.
It is. That is a different thing.
Okay.
So large language model AI, not all large language model AI, but generative large language model AI, such as ChatGPT or the recently developed Sora, have access to these enormous data centers. We know that all of our data is being kept mostly overseas in enormous data centers. When generative AI is asked to produce something, it searches many, many of these enormous data centers in order to follow a certain pattern to determine what it is that you, the user, wants to hear, needs to hear, blah, 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 whatever, and then produces a quote-unquote new piece of whatever, text. The process of doing that uses up so much water. The cooling requirement, because all of those data centers, I mean, these are being used constantly. You know how when you use your computer for too long and it starts to sound like an airplane taking off?
That's right.
Imagine that, but it's like hundreds of thousands of square acres of data, and they're constantly being searched and constantly being asked to produce new data. And that's going to
literal environment.
Yes.
Got it.
And it gets really, really hot.
Yeah.
And to cool off those data centers, you need water, but you need clean water because salt water, for example, is too dangerous to the technology itself.
Right.
So we're really screwing ourselves over with that one.
Got it.
Especially because I remember being in like 5th grade and being told that by 2050 we were going to have no more clean water left. And this is just, they couldn't even imagine whatever it is then.
Right. All right. So we're coming to a close, and I wanted to move into a different place. When life feels heavy, many of us will go to a place of soul, for some people, religion, for some people, spiritual seeking. We'll look beyond kind of the everyday mundane to understand existence, how to have optimism, how to keep centered. What do you think technology might do to what feels like a very human experience? I don't know whether other primates experience it. I don't know whether other animals experience
Pretty sure gorillas do.
spirituality, but I believe plants do. I mean, I I'm a kind of wackadoodle around this stuff, but there's a risk that technology is going to shift this for folks, I think. I don't know. What do you think? Or are people going to gravitate more to it because they're so isolated and looking for humanity at its core in other arenas? What would you say about all this?
That's a hard question.
It is. It is.
For a couple of reasons. There are already very strong spiritual communities online. And I mean, I've certainly had the experience, and I know a lot of other people my age have had the experience of like I use tarot in real life. I love to be in crisis and be like, let me get some guidance from my tarot deck. I just received this new one from like
Which deck?
It's like a queer love deck. I can't remember the name of it, but it's all about queer love and community.
Right.
And I did my first reading with this deck, and it was like slapping me in the face. Like it was giving me exactly what I wanted to hear. And I feel very, very grateful to the woman who gave me that. Like she knew exactly what I needed. I've never had a deck that read me like that before. But there's also a very large community of people who do tarot readings on TikTok or on Instagram Reels. And because the algorithm can figure out whether or not you like those, and also to some extent knows what's going on your phone and in your life, it can curate the kind of thing that's sent to you. And like, I know that personally for me, that has been really, really bad. Like I got off TikTok because every single thing that I saw was a tarot reading. And it was making me go crazy. Like I did not feel like I could trust myself. I didn't feel like I could trust my relationship with God, which is, I mean, you know, God's a heavy word to use these days, but I like to use the word God just for my general sense of spirituality and religion and connection with the greater environment and the energies of the universe. I felt extremely distant from God. I felt very confused. I felt like it blocked my intuition. And I think that's something that's very important with intuitive tools like tarot. So I do feel like there's some dangers there. I know a lot of other young women have experienced that exact same thing where you're like, oh, this is fun. And it's telling me someone new is going to come into my life. And then all of a sudden you have absolutely, like your sense of reality is shifted and your sense of your relationship to whatever your higher power is has shifted. I think being in physical, spiritual community with people is one way to alleviate that. I think spending time with yourself is one way to alleviate that as well.
Without the machines.
Yes, without the machines.
Being in nature.
Being in nature, taking a deep breath. I'm really trying to get into taking a deep breath recently. But I don't know. I don't know what AI necessarily will do for that kind of thing. I do think that for our culture as a whole, we've replaced, Western society was led by God for a period of time, and then it was led by science, and I think now it's led by money, and I think that that's really dangerous because you can't necessarily tell which direction you're being pulled in. But I don't know. I really think that for spirituality, the only way that you can cultivate that relationship is by cultivating the relationship. Yeah. You can only do it by fucking turning off your phone and sitting down with someone who you see as a spiritual leader or like a guide to you, or praying or reading something that's meaningful to you, or journaling, or going outside and sitting down in a good patch of grass. I think that spirituality has to take place outside of technology. I mean, I'm sure that there are other people who have made arguments for the general spirituality of technology, but we're not really there yet.
Yeah.
Our machines don't have a consciousness yet. If they had a consciousness, that would mean that we couldn't predict how they would act. And we still can.
Mm-hmm.
So until we're at that point, I don't really think that we can engage in any kind of soulful activity with our machines.
Yeah. I'm so glad you used the word intuition. My closing riff usually for GynoCurious is, please listen to your intuition and instincts. They're the greatest of teachers. In a way, the arc of our conversation is about listening to the body, listening and recognizing our propensity to be attached to these machines and how it impacts our health. And that, taking deep breaths is something that AI is, I guess they could count out a deep breath for you. Breathe in for 10 seconds, breathe out but it's still the act of doing it that is going to bring your nervous system to a quieter place and your mind to a quieter place. Yeah.
I do want to say, I think that there's a lot of shame about being dependent on machines. And the fact that they really do mediate every aspect of contemporary life. But I want that to not be a source of like shame or self-loathing. I think that there are certain things that you must do offline, and there are certain things at this point in time that you have to do online. And I think it's just a matter of discerning in yourself what tasks can be delegated to the machine and what tasks you want to reserve for yourself. Because they make you feel calm, because they make you feel happy, or because they're hard and because you get a sense of achievement and accomplishment from doing them yourself.
That's right. Thank you. No, I'm really glad you brought that up, because shaming is the last thing I want our audience to add on to their already high quotients of shame, right? And, as I intimated earlier, it's not good, it's not bad, it's not great, it's not, that we have to appreciate the, again, as you've pointed out, the real applications of technology in our lives. And that's just the way it is, right? At the same time, recognizing our own propensities and what still gives us pleasure, which is my last question for you. When you are not working in the library, writing your dissertation, although maybe that gives you pleasure, I want to know one thing. Hopefully there are many, many things that give you pleasure, but what gives you pleasure? For so long, us women never spoke out loud about what gave us pleasure. And I want to
Are we talking sexual pleasure? Or
you can talk about anything you want. It could be, many women say taking a walk. Some people say being with my dog. Some people talk about orgasm. What comes to your mind at the moment?
In this moment, drawing with oil pastels.
Ooh, okay.
I'm having a blast. My roommates have gotten me really into oil pastels.
Great.
I think they're a really fun tactile experience. They're so vivid. The colors are so vivid, but you can also blur them out to whatever extent you want. It requires a lot of like concentration and focus, and at least for the way that I like to use them, like repetitive movement, which I find very calming and also very evocative. I like that what I can produce from them feels like soulful artwork.
Great.
So I would say that. I would also say spending time with my loved ones.
Yeah.
It's just, there's really nothing like hanging out with your best friends.
I hear you.
I hear you. It's like the most grounding experience you can have.
It's cellular.
Yeah.
I think about my cells just kind of rejoicing as opposed to crenating, which is like folding in on themselves when I'm with people that I love.
Yeah.
And I enjoy. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. For those of you listening, please listen to Sam on Technocracy for Dummies. It's a new show on Radio Free Rhinecliff, and please share it with your friends, follow. Please support our radio station, because it is a wonderful opportunity for those of us in this community to share our ideas, tell our stories, and to be in community.
Plus, it's non-conglomerate media.
There you go.
Huge at this point in time.
So I want to thank Maddie Rosenberg for that. who's the founder of the station, Jana Mood, who is a producer of the show, David Hoffman, who helps edit this show, and to all of you listening, please, until the next episode of GynoCurious, please stay well and curious about all aspects of your health and well-being.